so much. I'm so happy to be here with you all today to talk about my favorite thing, technology. So let's go ahead and get started. Make your classroom tech setup work for you. So this is kind of a fun session for me because I get to talk about just all the fun tools that we're going to use. So in teaching, as Ryan said, I have a history in education. I taught middle school band for 12 years in a variety of situations here in Texas. I want to kind of relate with you because I know some of you probably are in a similar situation to me, that sometimes I taught in a closet where there was no whiteboard or even, and my whiteboard was a piece of butcher paper that I taped onto the wall. So my technology situations changed based on where I was and what room I was in and what my colleague was doing. I was lucky to always have a colleague to work with, which meant that we had to split up the rooms. So that's just a thing you have to deal with, you know. I was lucky also to mostly teach homogenous beginner classes. So for the most part, sometimes I had kind of weird classes here and there, but I've had a lot of very different good and bad technology setups. And so I think I've got a lot of hopefully helpful thoughts for you today. So let's keep going here. There we go. Okay. So that was a little bit about me. I want to talk about a make it work mentality because I think as music educators, we have that mentality. We just have to make it work. Somebody's instrument falls apart right before the concert and we grab a screwdriver and we just make it work. Somebody's reed breaks and okay, does anybody else have a brand new reed that they can use just for the concert? The percussion thing falls apart at the back of the room. The string breaks, whatever, we always are making it work. And I would encourage you to consider a shift in that mindset to make it work well for you. Because with technology, it shouldn't be the thing that you're doing. It should be the thing that helps you do what you're doing. And I think if you were with us yesterday, I loved Brian Balmage's keynote talking about just making musical connections. And that is what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to use technology like robots. We want to make things work well with technology, and technology can help us to do that. And I've just said technology 14 times, and now it sounds wrong to me. That ever happened to you? So I would invite you to consider a shift to making it work well. And that means like, okay, I've got all these extension cords all over the place and kids are tripping over them, but I need to plug all my stuff in. Is it working well, or is it just making it work in that situation? Take 5 minutes and reorganize the cords, or get a kid to do it, maybe. Technology for the checkbox is something I talk about a lot in sessions like this. And the checkbox that I'm imagining is the checkbox on that evaluation sheet that your administrator has when they come into your classroom. I think you know the checkbox I'm talking about, where they say, okay, they have an organized classroom, they maintained control of the students, they had good classroom management. They use technology, check. So are you using technology for that checkbox, or are you using it to enhance the experience of your students and to empower them to be independent musical humans? So using it for that second reason, I think, is a much more compelling reason to use it than just for the checkbox. I have a colleague who used to hate that checkbox. He used to say, oh, they're holding technology. They're holding a flute. It moves. It has all these pieces to it. That is technology. But if you expand your mindset here, and if you're here at this conference or watching this later, you probably already have that mindset, but I always like to just bring it up. The technology that you use in your classroom should enhance what you do. It should enhance the experience of your students, and that should be your litmus test. If it's not doing that, then maybe don't use it. Maybe you banging your head against the wall trying to use something over and over again is a sign that you should try it a different way. Maybe you do need a paper roster and just do check marks on the roster for who's here and who's not, and that's okay. Don't use technology just for technology's sake. I guess is my big point here that you probably got already. Anything new that you try, there's going to be growing pains. And you need to, give it a good shot, especially if it could be an important tool for you to use that might be really helpful for you and your students. So definitely give it a good college try. But if it's not working for you, that's okay. Try something else. Be flexible. You also need to consider, as we all do, that we're all kind of in the face of budget cuts in education. And while you can be a big advocate for your program, you also shouldn't stomp your feet and just be mad if it's just not in the works for your school to provide something for you for that year. So, do the best with what you have and advocate for your program, and then go from there. Okay, let's talk about the tools of the trade, some fun things. So in this section, we're going to talk about some hardware, some organization tools, and some online classroom tools. We're going to talk about MakeMusic Cloud because it's incredible, let's be honest. And a lot of us probably use it already. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. And I would love for you in the chat to add your own tools that you love to use if I don't mention one that you think is really important. So I'll kind of talk to you about how I have used these, and hopefully that will spur some ideas in your own brain for how you could use them. And then you can take that into your new school year. Okay, here's some hardware. A projector. A projector is huge. I think a projector is essential for me. I mentioned that I taught in a classroom without one, and I was lucky to teach pretty small classes, and I would just turn my laptop around and show them things that I wanted to show them. I would use a projector to play recordings of things so students can get a great example in their ear. I would use it to project what I wanted them to do online for class. If I wanted them to go into their Google Classroom, I would show them how to go into their Google Classroom, how to open an assignment, how to log into MakeMusic Cloud, how to open an assignment there, take a volunteer who wants to try playing this assignment right now, and then you don't have to do it at home. And let them see, okay, here's what happened. Oh, here's where you made a mistake. Why don't we record it again? And doing that in class is really powerful because it helps the students feel comfortable with using the tool. So if you can have a projector in your room, I definitely would encourage you to try using it. You can project other things too. I mean, you can project, you know how to use a projector. You can do anything on there. You can even show Mickey Mouse movies, if you want to. A speaker system. I went a lot of years just using like a bass amp for my speaker, where I could just plug things in as needed. And it was really not ideal. And I was really making it work and not making it work very well. And when I upgraded, I got a speaker system that it was actually like for a gigging musician, and the speakers clipped onto each other. The middle was all the inputs, and I could spread them out. I could connect via Bluetooth, and I could use lots of different connections. So once I took a few minutes and made sure everything was connected properly, then my speaker system was a lot easier to use and a lot more efficient for class, and it helped class just work better. So that just find a speaker that works in your classroom. Maybe you have mounted speakers, but consider all the inputs. Consider the inputs of your projector also. How does your computer talk to your projector? And how does your computer talk to your speaker? And can you make them all be friends? Are the cords really short? Can you get longer cords? Can you get a wireless mouse so that you can leave your computer on the dock that's locked to the cabinet? That's what mine was, locked to the cabinet. Can you leave your computer on the dock that's locked to the cabinet and still not leave the podium if you don't want to? So think about all of those kinds of setup things, like how can you make that work the very best? A document camera. I love a document camera. I know that sounds kind of silly maybe to some of you, but I love showing kids how to put a reed on underneath a document camera, because a whole class of clarinet players can see me lining up my reed perfectly and tightening my ligature and showing them all. And I don't have to go and individually show them all. I would still individually go and check them all. But seeing it on a big screen is just pretty powerful. I also use a document camera all the time with marking music. I would keep my own copy of music up at the front of the room in a binder of whatever music the students had in that class. Well, I'd keep them all in the same binder. And when I asked them to mark something in their music, I would also mark it in my music, so I knew that it had happened. And I would mark it underneath the document camera. I pretty much just had it on every class. And just going over and marking it on mine, they're learning, oh, the middle of the sharp sign needs to line up with the note head. And oh, the flat and the sharp sign go to the left of the note, not to the right or underneath or on the top of whatever. It just helps them learn important musician skills. And you don't really even have to say much. You just go over and do it and show them what it looks like. And they want to do the right thing. So they want to copy you. Kids want to do the right thing and do things correctly. And that makes them feel empowered. And that's a cool thing to witness. So a document camera is a nice tool to have if you can get that. A document camera and a projector usually use kind of similar inputs, or a document camera to your projector and your computer to your projector would use a similar input. So when there's no kids in the room, you practice switching from your computer to your document camera. Or maybe you have multiple inputs. You practice switching the inputs that the projector is reading from. Do it with no kids in the room so that you're not flustered, but practice it a few times. And then in the middle of class, when you're going over to write something on your music or whatever, and the percussion section is setting something on fire, you can talk to percussion and tell them to stop that and still switch your inputs and then move on with class. And you'll look like a pro. Recording equipment. This is a cool thing. This was definitely like a bonus for me, and took several years of like setting aside funds from our budget to be able to prepare to do this. But we purchased as like a Zoom audio device that we could hook in a couple of boom mics into, and we had that set up in the main band hall. And we just would turn it on every morning. It would record onto an SD card. And having that there, I used it way more than I thought I would. And it was very impactful for students because I could say, okay, we're going to rehearse these few measures. And then, hey, I'm going to record them right now. So everybody, and they would sit up taller. They knew they were being recorded. So cute. They sit up and they do their best. And then boom, I had it hooked into my speaker too. Everything's all hooked up. Hook it up into the speaker. And in 1 second, they can hear back what they just played, but they can hear them from the front. And the tuba players don't usually hear that. The kids in the back of the room can't hear what the kids in the front of the room are playing very well. So being able to just with the snap of a finger, play to them what they sounded like was really, really cool and really impactful in rehearsals. We could say things like, did you hear that decrescendo that we've been working on? And sometimes yes, and sometimes, oh, let's try again. And that's the kids then now giving themselves their own feedback, which is really cool. And what we want them to be independent, wonderful musical humans. Okay, recording equipment, that's cool. The recording equipment is also really great, like at a concert, because we could pack it up and move it to our cafetorium stage where we would have our concerts. Or if we were lucky and got to go somewhere nicer, we could just pack it up with us and take it there if there was not going to be a recording there immediately. So the students can listen to themselves the next day in class. Okay, moving on, metronome, tuner, drone. Some people love a metronome, a tuner, and a drone, and some people hate them. I'm on the love side, but in moderation. So I'm not going to turn it on every single rep, but I'm going to use it, probably a lot. The metronome, tuner, drone of my choice is a harmony director. If you have the means to get that for your program, maybe save up for a couple of years with your budgeted funds or do a great fundraiser to get a harmony director. They're really wonderful tools. Again, you hook it up into your speaker. You can drone things for students. I love that I can change the key on the fly and then just read from the score and play the French horn part or whatever without having to transpose in my head. A drone is great in especially like a full orchestra setting. That's a I used the drone a lot when teaching full orchestra to just balance chords for students who aren't used to hearing all of those warm sounds all together. So that is a really, really great tool. But any kind of metronome that you have, even one on your phone, you can, like the TE tuner, you could practice hooking your phone up into your speaker system and use that metronome and drone and tuner on there, which is really just as easy, I think, and way cheaper actually. So maybe do that. But I do love a harmony director, and making sure it's all, again, hooked up and ready to go when there's no kids in the room. Cord covers, ties, and extension cords. When I learned how to order from Amazon with our school's purchase card, it was a beautiful day, and I got things like this that I couldn't buy from our music store that was an approved vendor, that just like little easy, simple things like this. I'd encourage you to think through the flow of your classroom and make sure everybody can walk through safely and they're not going to trip over something and like damage some expensive equipment or themselves or their instrument. And also that just helps you too, because when you're trying to run around the room crazily, trying to put out all the fires and help the kids whose instrument just fell apart all at the same time, that you're then not part of the show and falling over and hurting your own self. Laptop stands. During COVID, I purchased some laptop stands for my school. They look like music stands, but they have a screw that will hold them in place so they won't sink down. But they functioned a lot like music stands. And I purchased them because we, during that time, were using one-to-one devices. And we were on what was then Smart Music constantly. That was what we did during class every day. It was everybody opens up Smart Music, we're going to rehearse, and we use that instead of paper music, honestly. I think a lot of like gigging musicians use things like this, like DJ equipment. Places that sell that would have a laptop stand. I think we ordered ours from a place called Sweetwater Music. And those wouldn't be, if you are in a situation in your school where you have one-to-one devices and you want your students to use them during class time, or you're looking for a way to help them use MakeMusic Cloud during class and just be more comfortable with it, or use whatever tools you're using during class, these are a nice option for a musician because it allows you to hold your instrument with your device on a place that you can change the level of it and see it visually and still have great posture. So those are kind of a cool thing to have. If you're in that situation, I don't think they are a necessity for every music room, definitely. Student tuners and microphone clips. I feel really strongly that students having a tuner and microphone clip empowers them to learn how their instrument works and how they can manipulate their sound with their embouchure or with their finger placement or with their slide placement, whatever. It just lets them do that. And the microphone clip allows them to do it in a big room with other kids. So having these available, whether your students purchase them or you purchase a set and use one of those over-the-door pocket organizers for them, I think these are really great tools that you show students how to use. You know, you can't just hand it to them and then say go, or hand it to them and then 6 months later, you're like, why aren't y'all using your tuners? You have to teach them how to do it. And I think they can be taught from day one, honestly. Beginners with their playing on their baby instrument can learn how to hold the needle steady, you know, and woodwinds can be taught what pitch they should be going for, you know. So if you teach them how to use them, then they're really wonderful tools also. And that pocket organizer, you can have your own system of how you want to check in, check out. I've seen people use shoes, like they put their shoe in there when a kid takes a tuner. So then they return the tuner. I'm not into shoes. I think that's gross. So I would just have them write their name on the board, but you can do that however you'd like. Okay, there's some hardware. You may have some other thoughts, so pop them in the chat and we will address them. Here's some organization tools. You need to be organized as a music teacher. I'm sure you know this. Some database tools that you're probably familiar with. it's so helpful to have a database because it just helps you to be more efficient throughout the year. So I'd recommend you set something like this up right at the beginning of the school year. If it seems like it's harder to do the longer you wait, so just bite the bullet and do it right at the beginning of the year is my advice. Charms, Band App, Google Suite. I've used combinations of these and ended up just using the Google Suite with spreadsheets. And that ended up working pretty good for me for what I needed. So you can do that, however you want. If you want them to use Charms or Band App, make sure to teach them how to use it and how to log in. Otherwise, you'll be answering questions all the time about how do I log in again? Like right around the time when it's most hectic, like when the trip payment is due, then you'll also be getting 25 emails about, I forgot how to log in. So make sure you teach them how to use it if you want them to use it. Messaging, same thing. Make sure you use a messaging system that is obviously approved by your district if they approve that kind of a thing. And just for yourself and for your student safety, I would ensure that you have a way to download all of the messages just for records, just to keep everybody safe. You can use a website. You could probably get away without a website, probably, because if you're using a learning management system and some other tools, you may not have need for it. If you're going to use a website, though, definitely train everybody to go to the website. If you want to post information on there that's relevant to your students and families, make sure to tell them about it. And if you forget to tell them about it, you can't be surprised that, man, nobody's going to the website. No, I see nobody's ever clicking on anything. They may not remember that it exists. So talk about it often. Every concert, put it on the bottom of your email signature. Make sure people know where to find the information. Inventory tools. Everybody does inventory kind of in different ways, but it's a pretty basic, thing. Is the thing here or is it not here? Who has it? Who's checked it out? And for me, I would use a spreadsheet for this and try and just keep it as simple as possible. Whenever I tried to complicate it, like with barcodes, it just never worked out. So there's an example of like banging my head against the wall, like trying all these barcodes, trying to get them to tape onto all the cases, but then the kids peel them off. And so then it's like, okay, I'm just going to do a spreadsheet. I'm going to just write in the date that I last saw this thing. And so twice a year, just make sure I have all the dates are matching. A calendar, highly recommend a calendar. And this is something you get set up before the school year starts. You may have already set your calendar dates for next year. Set it up. Google Calendar is my preference because it's so easy to share and you can attach documents in there too. So you could even set it up now and teach people how to go to it and how to access what you put on there. And that kind of connects with this next point. What can you set up to automate for you at the beginning of the year? Like right now, you could make all of your concert reminders or uniform payment is due reminders, whatever, in document form and attach them all to the calendar events. And then for you, when you click on that calendar event, you can just print them off or email them or whatever, and then leave them there and teach your families and students that they can see the attachments, that you're going to attach relevant things into the calendar. And that'll make it a really useful thing for them. If it's not useful, they're not going to go visit it. But there's kind of an example of an automation thing. And what else can you automate? Can you automate can you set up a spreadsheet that's going to automatically copy student names onto another spreadsheet so that you always have, a clean roster. So thinking through those kinds of things now when you have a little bit of time can be really powerful and help you to stay efficient. All these organizational tools are kind of mostly for you, right? And not so much for the students. Although I guess it's for everybody, but you're the one who has to manage it all. All right, let's look at some online classroom presence. An LMS, whatever your district or school is mandating you use as an LMS, make sure that you know how to use it really well. I love to go on YouTube to just watch tutorials about like how to use things. You can find everything on there. And I do Google searches. In fact, I did one a few minutes ago to see the best way to see my speaker notes on my Google slide deck while I was presenting in a Zoom. So don't be afraid to look things up. Everybody does it. And the internet has much knowledge, MakeMusic Cloud. Love MakeMusic Cloud. I think it's an incredible tool for your students. It's a great practice partner, the best practice partner. But you have to show everybody how to use it. Don't just like put them all in MakeMusic Cloud and say, go. You've got to, teach everybody how to do it. Same with your learning management system. However, you're going to set it up for your students. Like if maybe you're going to post all your announcements on your Schoology and instead of like on a website. Students need to know that that's where they can find that information. So that's something you have on your projector when they are all coming into class. Maybe you have your calendar on your projector when they're all coming into class. And there's another use for that hardware that we were talking about earlier. You can also have a student-only or community-only website resource. Maybe you aren't using a learning management system, but you want to have some kind of hub for your community that you're teaching. Google Sites has a great way to password protect, and it's free. They're pretty simple websites, but you can certainly password protect them and or invite only specific people. So like if you're using Google tools in your school or district, then you could just put the email addresses of all your students in all your classes as able to view this. And as long as they're logged into their school Google, they'll be able to view the website and then other people won't be able to. I would use a Google site for things like pass-offs, especially when I had like students that were in and out of class at the same time, like online and in person. During COVID times, I would have like a virtual pass-off chart, but I would put it behind a website that was only my students were able to look at, so they could check their pass-off status or whatever. So that's a good use for that. And if you're putting any like trip details or itineraries or anything, that's probably good to put on a community-only kind of place. All right, let's talk about how to be successful using these kinds of tools. I've mentioned it a couple of times, I think, but my best advice for implementing technology is to practice it outside of class time. So make sure the room is quiet. I know that isn't often, but find a few minutes where your room is quiet. Maybe it's those the few days of in-service before school starts. Maybe you have a few minutes, you can do it then. Practice plugging in your laptop. Practice changing the input on your speaker. Practice going to Google Classroom and demonstrating that. Practice going to MakeMusic Cloud and showing students how to log in. Practice that all before class happens. And that way you won't have those pop-ups that are like, oh, you have to log in and, oh man, I forgot my password. Hang on, let me look up my password or do a password reset. And then they all see your email. And practice it outside of class time. And you'll feel so confident doing it inside of class time. And then assume that something will go wrong. And then when it goes wrong, you just go with it. Let students see you problem solve, because they need to see that adults make mistakes and can calmly fix them and move forward. Or maybe it's a big mistake and you can't fix it, but you're going to move forward anyway. That's like a powerful thing for a student to see. So let them see you go through that and problem solve, but don't waste a whole class of, I don't know, maybe you forgot your password and you have to do the password reset and then you can't log in your email because you have to do I don't know, passwords are the worst. So assume it'll go wrong. And then when it does go wrong, go with it. Even after you practice, things will go wrong. Test and set up all your chords carefully with traffic flow in mind. Definitely do this with a few trusted students or when there's no kids in the room, and make sure that everything's plugged in. It can be covered with a cover of some kind, even if it's duct tape. so that it's safe and it isn't going to damage anything if somebody steps on it or pulls it accidentally. Practice again, just like plugging everything in and unplugging it. And you may have to do it again if you like take something somewhere. Like if you have to move your classroom or you have a concert and you take some of the equipment over, then take a few minutes and make sure you set everything up carefully again. Let's talk about onboarding for web-based tools, success tips. And I think this starts with onboarding. So onboarding is teaching the people that need to use this how to use it successfully. So do some intentionally think about, how am I going to teach them how to use this? For something like Google Classroom, I would have them, I would first on my projector show them how to find Google Classroom, whatever crazy way they have to do it. For your district, like they would have to like log in on our district website first and go through all these things. And it was not what I would define as easy, but you still have to teach them how to do it if you want them to use it. So show them how the flow to log in, and then already have a really, really easy, the easiest, most attainable assignment in there, like type your name and turn it in. Have that in there, show them the assignment, show them how to do it, show them how to turn it in, show them how to check that it's turned in, and then send them out into the world to do it. Do the same. You can do the same thing with MakeMusic Cloud. Find the easiest thing in there, line 1 of a method book. A lot of times those are silence. Find like a concert F or play on, I don't know, play one note. Find a line in there. There's tons of method books in MakeMusic Cloud. So you can really build your own method book, which is a whole different discussion, but also a really interesting idea. Find a line, 5 from any book and assign that as their very first assignment, something very attainable. And on your projector during class, show them how to log in, how to find their assignments, how to test their microphone, how to do the assignment, how to re-record, how to choose. And we kind of already talked about this a little bit with the projector a few minutes ago, but show them how to do that all in class and they'll learn it way faster. So just spend that time in class and it'll be really well worth it. Spend a few minutes showing them how to explore the music catalog so they can find other songs. They're going to find a ton of stuff in there that they really want to play. So show them how to do that. Show them how to, in Schoology, organize the order of classes that they see. Show them those things, and these tools will become second nature to them. Just like it's not Snapchat anymore, but when everybody was on Snapchat, they all knew how to use Snapchat because they practiced using it all the time. So if you give them opportunities to practice a lot of what you want them to log into, it's just really helpful and will create a culture of them knowing how to do things, which is awesome. Screencasting. There are some great Google Chrome extensions that will help you to screencast. And this can be a great resource for you to post in a learning management system or on a website. You could even send an email out. I would do that with, like, when I used Charms, I would create a screencast of how to log into Charms with our school code. I think that's what it was called. And I would email that out to parents so that they could learn how to log on without, having to ask me. And they would have a resource, because all of us now learn from videos and learn from how-tos on the internet. So that is a normal thing for them to see. So learn how to do a screencast, and it doesn't have to be long. And you can demonstrate to people how to log in and, do whatever it is you're wanting them to do. Show them how to open up the tuner and MakeMusic Cloud on a screencast and share that with your students so that they can make use of their tools the most efficiently as possible. And then this is my final tip on this slide, but it's like a huge one. Create a student account for your reference. And what that's kind of an awkward sentence. I should have rewritten that, but create like a dummy account. I would always create a dummy account with my own student ID from when like I was a kid, so that I remember it, and just have a fake student account that could receive all of the assignments. And with Make Music Cloud, that means using an additional seat. With something like a learning management system, it may not be possible for your school or district to have a dummy account for you, depending on the district. Like you may have to have a like real legitimate email to use that's like based out of your district. But when possible, create that dummy account, and then you can do screencasts from that. So you can do a screencast of how this dummy account is opening an assignment and practicing an assignment, and then turning it in. And then you can check your own self. Like you can check, how do these directions look from the student side? How does this assignment look from the student side? And that will help you to write your directions more intentionally and carefully, because you'll know the experience of your students. You can also kind of fake that by having a student show you like, hey, can you log in? I just want to see this. But having your own dummy account will allow you to create some great materials that will help everybody get onboarded and know what to do and everything. I do hope that you've gotten at least a couple of ideas that you can take back to your own classroom from today. That's always my goal, that you get at least one or two things that you can take. And I appreciate everybody being here today.